It's claimed by many Pentecostals that the return of the apostolic gifts seen in the book of Acts started in 1901 with Charles Fox Parham. My goal in this series is to show you that there is very little difference between what Parham did in 1901 and what the cults and heretics did before him. Many heretics and cult leaders were speaking in tongues well before Parham. They were doing the same things, prophesying, speaking in tongues, and even having visions. And one of these groups were the Irvingites, led by Edward Irving. Irving taught heresy. He taught that Christ had a sinful nature, that his flesh was sinful. An article from the Belfast News, Northern Ireland in 1830 says this: "We particularly allude to his monstrous doctrine respecting the sinfulness of Christ's nature, and the terrible spirit of denunciation which he has manifested against all who may dare question its orthodoxy. If any man," he says in his work on the human nature of Christ, "assert that the Redeemer assumed an unfallen nature, let him be anathema." This is heresy. Christ did not have a sinful nature, and yet Irving held on to this view until his death in 1834. He was not just teaching false doctrine, he was teaching heresy. He was leading other people astray. And yet he was doing the same exact things that Parham would later do and getting the same results. There is not much difference between what Parham did and what Irving did. We're looking at this article here from the Belfast Newsletter. This is from October 28th, 1831, and this is the article right here. In consequence of the strange scene which took place at the Scotch Church in Regent Square on Sunday night, an unusually numerous congregation assembled there on Sunday morning in the expectation that similar proceedings would again take place. In this, however, the auditors were disappointed, as no tongue more remarkable than that of the Reverend Mr. Irving himself was heard. Twice, indeed, during the Reverend Gent's prayer, the congregation were startled by a voice which was understood to proceed from the female endowed with the gift of tongues. But the noise was unaccompanied by any attempt to articulate words, and appeared to be nothing more than a kind of hysterical cry. He commenced by observing that manifestations of the Spirit in the gifts of prophecy and of tongues had been the subject of historical record during the first 3 centuries, but from that period up to the present time they had ceased to be the subject of historical record. It had, however, been the opinion of himself and of others that these manifestations might be renewed, and accordingly they had prayed the Lord to restore them, just like Parham did. And it had at last pleased him to do so. So Irving believed that the gifts had been restored to him and his followers. Okay? Same thing Parham thought.